Welcome to The Explainer. Now, when we talk about India's independence, a few famous names probably pop into your head, right? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden narrative. We're talking about the women who weren't just part of the freedom struggle, they were its pillars. So, let me ask you, who were the heroes of India's freedom struggle? I'm guessing for most of you, your mind immediately goes to a handful of iconic men. You know, the ones we all learned about in school. Their faces are practically etched into our collective memory. And look, for good reason. Their contributions were absolutely monumental. They shaped the course of a nation, no doubt about it. They're a massive part of the story. But, and this is a big but, they aren't the whole story. Because right there alongside them and often, leading the charge, was this incredible army of women. Their courage, their sacrifice, their vision, it wasn't just helpful. It was absolutely central to the entire movement. And yet, their stories have somehow been pushed to the margins. Okay, so to really grasp the depth of this sacrifice, we've got to move past the abstract history lesson and zoom in on one single, powerful human story. And that is the story of a woman named Tara Rani Srivastav. So picture this, it's August 12th, 1942. We're in the middle of the Quit India movement. In the Saran district of Bihar, a young woman, Tara Rani Srivastava, and her husband, Phulandu Babu, are out on the streets leading a protest march. You can just feel the passion in the air, this burning desire for free India. Their goal is to hoist the Indian flag at the local police station, a huge act of defiance. But then the police open fire. And in the chaos, her husband is shot, and he falls. Now, what does Tara Rani do? In this single, gut-wrenching moment, she tears a strip from her own sari to bandage his wounds. But the mission was everything. So she doesn't stop. She gets back up, flag in hand, and keeps leading the crowd forward. It's only later when she returns that she finds out her husband has died. I mean, can you even imagine that level of conviction? It's just incredible. So Tara Rani's story, it's just heartbreaking, but at the same time, completely awe-inspiring. And here's the thing you have to understand. She wasn't an anomaly, not by a long shot. She was part of this huge, often invisible army of women who were quite literally the backbone of the entire freedom struggle. You might be wondering, well, why don't we know more stories like hers? And scholars actually have a name for this. It's called historical marginalization. It's basically this tendency in our history books to focus so heavily on a few prominent male leaders that it creates this giant research gap, and the critical contributions of women just get left out, leaving us with a totally incomplete picture of the past. And look, this wasn't just a one-time thing. These women were active at every single critical stage. We're talking boycotts in the 1920s, leading the salt marches in the 30s. Their presence was a constant. And by the time the Quit India movement rolled around in 1942, when most of the big-name male leaders were arrested, who do you think stepped up? The women did. They took on leadership roles and literally kept the flame of the movement from dying out. But here's what's really interesting. This hidden army wasn't all moving in lockstep. Nope. Women contributed in all kinds of different ways, really following two distinct but equally powerful paths to freedom. And this slide just illustrates that perfectly. On one side, you've got the revolutionaries, people like Durgawati Devi, also known as Durga Babi, who was part of an armed group, ran a bomb factory, and even helped Bhagat Singh escape. Then, on the other side, you have the Satyagrahis, the staunch Gandhians like Prabhavati Devi. She chose the path of nonviolent resistance, dedicating her entire life to the cause, promoting economic self-reliance, and getting jailed for her beliefs. I mean, two totally different approaches, right? But both fighting for the very same goal. And this brings us to a really crucial point. Their fight, it wasn't just about kicking the British out. It was about actively building the foundations of a brand new India. They were just protesters on the streets. They were architects of a nation. And you can actually see this evolution happen in these clear stages. First, it was economic resistance, leading the khadi movement, spinning their own cloth as a symbol of self-sufficiency. Then it grew into social reform. They founded powerful organizations to campaign against things like child marriage and for women's education. And finally, the third step, they stepped right into political leadership, shaping the actual laws for an independent India. Which brings us to this number, 15.
Now, 15 might not sound like a huge number, but trust me, its significance is absolutely immense. That's because 15 women were members of the Constituent Assembly, the body that was responsible for drafting the entire Constitution of India.
And their presence there was anything but symbolic. We're talking about leaders like Hansa Mehta and Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. These women were fierce. They were instrumental in drafting key parts of the Constitution, and they fought tooth and nail to make sure that core principles like gender equality and universal adult suffrage, yep, giving every single citizen the right to vote, were written right into the nation's DNA.
Okay, so this brings us to the big question, right? Why does all of this matter today? I mean, beyond just setting the historical records straight, what's the real takeaway for us?
Well, it's because we have to understand that their fight was for two different kinds of freedom. When these women stepped into the public sphere, they were fighting a battle on two fronts at the exact same time.
So on the one hand, you had the obvious one, freedom from colonial rule. But on the other hand, they were fighting for freedom from the patriarchal social rules that had kept them confined to the private sphere for centuries. So every single time they marched, every time they spoke up, it was a double act of defiance. It was a challenge to both the British Empire and the traditional norms within their own society.
And this dual struggle was so profound. Even Mahatma Gandhi himself recognized how powerful it was. He said, when woman, whom we call abala, or weak, becomes sabala, strong, all those who are helpless will become powerful. He understood that their empowerment wasn't some side project. It was absolutely central to the nation's strength.
So how does remembering them change our understanding of history? Well, it shows us that history isn't just a story of a few great men. It's this complex, beautiful tapestry woven with the threads of courage and sacrifice from every single part of society. Independence wasn't something that was just handed down. It was a nation forged piece by women fighting a dual battle for freedom, one for their country and one for themselves. So their stories, they don't just add to our history, they complete it. And that really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? What other stories, what other heroes are we still leaving in the margins today?